Hey.
Hey, we made it.
Yes, how are you doing?
I'm doing marvelous. How you doing?
Great. It's so good to see you.
It's good to
First
be
of all,
seen.
I'm super excited. Like, people just don't know. We go way, way back.
Yeah,
You remember
way
me
back.
since I was a little girl. So,
Oh wow, yeah.
yeah,
It's been
this
a
is
long
going to be
time.
a great episode. I'm super excited. So, for
Yeah, I'm
those who
excited.
don't know, I do want to welcome everybody here. This is Camille Essick, and I am host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. I'm super excited and honored to have this guest here tonight in more ways than you can imagine. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and kick off tonight's episode. And I want you to introduce yourself.
Okay, I am Anthony Walton, pastor of Christ Temple Church here in Paducah, Kentucky. That's just about it. I've written two books, one with my wife. Actually, it's three books. So we started from a storefront here in Paducah, and God has blessed us. That's about the best I can tell right now.
Awesome. So, with that being said, I'm so glad to have you here, Pastor Walton. It's just an honor and a privilege to have you here. I'm so looking forward to the conversation we're going to have tonight. First of all, before we hop into that, just as an icebreaker, what is something about you that most people normally don't know about you?
I would probably say jealousy.
What?
Yeah, I'm pretty jealous person. Yeah, and people don't know that. I told somebody that one time. It's like what you just said. What?
The pastor?
Yeah,
Jealous?
jealous. I mean, when people cross over boundaries that I don't think they need to cross over. It's like my wife and I. When she's the one, and even my children. When I feel like somebody's crossed over into the daddy zone, yeah, I get jealous. I don't get fighting jealous. I angry jealous. I throw in stuff jealous. Just
Right.
jealous. So that's about it.
Right. That I just never would have thought that about you.
I know most people don't.
So that being said, we're gonna hop right into the conversation. You
Okay.
have written a book, and I've heard some, things about it. Narkiti was like, "Yeah, Pastor Walton wrote a book. Elder Walton wrote a book," and I was like, "Really?" And I was like, okay." So I just think there are so many things here that we want to discuss tonight. Things that are not really talked about or discussed within a community after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to kind of take us back to like the beginning of your journey. Like, give us a little background of who you are now, but versus your roots. Where did you come from?
Okay, I think that probably is the reason why I ended up going to prison or whatever, because I was raised up in an extremely abusive home where back in those days, people didn't care about you beating your kids. So we got beatings with razor straps, water hoses, fists, switches, all kind of things. My daddy wasn't a drunk or anything like that. He was just mean. And we got, I was basically terrified of him. I stuttered really, really, really bad. And so when I finished, left high school, I was basically just angry. And I started taking karate, judo, boxed a little bit, trying to build up my self-esteem because I was bullied all the way through school and everything. So I was too timid to even fight back. So I was trying to get me some courage. And the anger, this is why I ended up going to prison, because the anger was so embedded in me. I was hurting other people. Now, I never was necessarily violent per se, but I had a gun and I took people's stuff. And it was a result of the anger. And when you have that kind of anger in you, that when it's unmanaged, it spills over into innocent people. And that's what happened to me. Even though the karate and the judo, it kind of helped ease a little bit, but I still had a lot of stuff. I really was wanting to get back at the person that I was mad at. But because I couldn't do that in a sense, whoever got in the way. Sometimes people get into crossfires of your angry. They kind of get part of what you're trying to give somebody else. And so I damaged a lot of people. And I think that's the beginning of everything. And because of that, I'm mad. I'm locked up in the penitentiary. Didn't really want to go there. Of course, nobody wants to go to prison, but trying to find out who I was, trying to find out what happened. How did I get there? And that's basically the journey from childhood. Like I said, I stuttered so bad. growing up out of fear. And so now I get convicted because here's the thing. I was going out doing all kind of stuff and got to the point to where I was comfortable with it and thinking that nobody's ever going to really, first you wear a mask, then you got to get to the point to where people are going to be scared. So they're not going to remember anything. So this person right here, no mask, loaded gun, finger on the trigger, walked away, drove the car away. This person got my tag number and everything. And what happened, by the time I went to prison, be honest with you, by the time I went to prison, the crime was 5 years old. Okay. And armed robbery in Nashville carried 10 years to life. And because I was pleading not guilty, I'm pleading not guilty because my life was a little bit different. I had met the love of my life in a sense. And so I didn't want anybody to know that I was guilty. So I went to trial on an innocent plea. But then it took God basically to help me recognize the fact, it's really strange when you lie to yourself so good that you believe your own lie. That's what I did. I lied so good to where I believed I actually believed I was innocent. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? So it took God to show me that, you got to do something about this crime. Okay, you got to do something about this. And I'm sitting there again. They gave me 12 years. They could have gave me life. Okay, they gave me 12 years and for armed robbery. That's what it was. And all of this is strange too, because I had my finger on the trigger, loaded gun. If they'd have sneezed, if I'd have tripped, I would have gone to prison for murder. Okay, little simple things like that. So I'm in there, and I'd only been married for 2 years. And so I was stripped, in a sense, from that. That is the part right there that I could have destroyed myself, basically, because what happens with the thought of suicide, for me, I don't know about anybody else, the thought of suicide basically is a feeling of hopelessness.
Wow.
So
let's kind of pack, because I want to see what got you to that point, because it wasn't like you just got arrested and then you wanted to commit suicide. So what happened during this process that got you to the point of thinking about suicide?
Okay. Got arrested. I got found guilty, stayed out for a year because I was on appeal or whatever. The appeal was denied. And this is the interesting part too. I was really thinking that the appeal was going to be favorable. So I'm out for a year in the appellate court, and they basically, the appeal was denied, and I go, and it was a horrible feeling. Chains on your hands, chains on your feet, hooked up to somebody else, and taking me through all of this embarrassing kind of thing. Let me out downtown to walk to another jail or whatever, and feeling like an animal. Anytime you've never been in situations like that, you really don't think about you being a criminal.
Right.
You don't think about that. But they treat you like a criminal. So here I was, not feeling like I had deserved that. Right. Because mind you, the crime happened, I think, in 80. I got arrested, I think, in 83. I went to trial in 84. I went to it was all jumbled up. But in
the early 80s.
Yeah, the early. See, okay. Too, I was my wife and I met. I used to be a professional comic. What? It's strange though, because I live two lives. My wife and I met. You're probably too young to know about these, but I opened up for the Manhattans.
I know about Manhattan.
Really?
I'm young, but my soul is old now.
Oh, but I was at the Bird's Nest. It was downtown, right on the corner of 10th and Douglas, I think. Okay. It was a nightclub there. I was opening up for
over there by off Wedgwood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now I think it's called Zanies now, right?
Oh yeah, Zanies, and I did Zanies too for a little while.
Oh, all right now.
Yeah, but I did but the Bird's Nest, I think it might have been somewhere else. Anyway, that's why we met there, and so I fell in love and we met in October of 80. We was married in January of 82. So it's about like a year and a few months. And so that ripped my heart out. You know, when they gave me 12 years, I'm thinking, man, you know, this is wild. So I go to court, I plead innocent, had everything basically. I thought I was going to get found not guilty.
Right.
Okay, but they found me guilty. I mean, guilty. And like I said again, they could have given me life. They gave me 12 years. It's like 12 years. And I thought it was a lifetime. I didn't know anything about the criminal justice system. It just felt like 12 years. I can't do 12 years, man. You know, that was what was in my mind. 12 years. So I'm going through all of this, and I had changed a little bit, a lot. I say I had changed from that criminal, because now, you know, like I said, I got a wife and a kid. Are you familiar with Jamie? Do you know Jamie?
Yes, I know Jamie.
That's my daughter. Did you know that?
Yes, sir. I go to Greater Creston.
Yeah, I forgot. Anyway,
oh my God.
But I had, so I had got a family now, so I'm trying to do the right thing. So by the time I go to prison, man, I'm really a different kind of person.
Right.
You know, because the crime, like I said, by the time I went to prison, the crime was 5 years old. You know, so I felt like that they had did me wrong. That's what I felt. I said, man, why am I going to prison now? You know, and this crime is so old, I don't have any other record or whatever. So I felt like I was mistreated. I really did. So all of that stuff was in me. And then the fact that I've pleaded not guilty. You can maybe say something. I'm sorry.
No, I was just thinking as you were talking, as far as the anger, because you brought out some points as you're telling your story, as far as what got you to the point, not excusing the end result, but I think there's something that a lot of Black men experience as kids, whether it's some type of abuse or whether it's sexual or verbal or physical or combination of all of the above. So they grow up harboring, some of them grow up harboring a form of anger.
Yes.
They don't have the tools to verbalize or to express themselves, or they're not allowed to do so. So then you're walking around like, I don't want to say a ticking time bomb, but you have all these feelings inside. You're not happy maybe with your home life, the environment, how you're treating, all these things are suppressed. Then just being a Black male and dealing with what life gives. So there's just certain, what we call elements or ingredients for a recipe for something very tumultuous to happen. And I think when it happens, particularly with young men in our community, when they do act out, a lot of times it does result in some type of criminal activity or violence. Not always.
Not always.
There is a higher propensity for that to happen because you're already being oppressed by your race, your gender, home life. Then, as you spoke in the beginning, dealing with the abuse. So then here you are. And then if you don't have things, just basic things, and nothing's being given to you, or you're being denied a certain thing,
you take it.
You take it. So, and that's something I do want for you to kind of unpack a little bit more as we dig further into your story. How is it important, Elder Walton, as far as to give our young Black boys spaces to express themselves, verbalize their feelings? I know, me too, we grow up with the age of corporal punishment, getting beaten, whatever you want to call it. But now, in a generation of communication, how is it important to sit down and talk to our young boys, our young men? Hey, how are you feeling? What's going on? And can you kind of touch on that a bit more?
Because what happens, and I use me for instance, it's almost like nobody really cares. You have that kind of mindset. Nobody really cares because everybody knows that I'm getting beat like a dog at home. So nobody really cares. All they're concerned about making sure you pass these grades, making sure you do all this because you got beat at school too. So you get this mindset. So sometimes we as the older men try to talk to the young brothers. It's like, okay, I tell them my story. And so hopefully they'll realize that prison is no place for you to go. Can you talk to me? But people were like I was, you can't really talk because you don't really want anybody to know that you are being abused or whatever. So it's not easy, even if I put myself in position or in a place for them to talk to me, a lot of them still won't talk. it's almost like either fear or you don't really care anyway, and they got a place called it's a school that you if you when you don't do right in the regular school, they send you to this school, and that school.
Alternative school.
Hmm?
Alternative
Yeah,
school.
alternative school. They send you there, and then the thing about it, that's really a pipeline to prison. They send them from there, then it's like juvenile detention centers.
Right.
And then that's kind of like a pipeline because nobody is there to try to, everybody's so busy, so busy living their own lives. And when these young men are crying out for help, they don't know how to receive the help when somebody comes along to help them. And the one that's trying to help them don't really know how to help them. They really don't.
So what do you feel like you're doing now in your space or your community to allow young Black men to communicate and express themselves, or even give them a safe space? Because sometimes I feel like some of our young men and even our grown men, they want to talk, but they don't feel safe. And then when they do, they feel as if, well, if I open up and share, it's going to be weaponized against me later. It's going to be turned against me later. And because they don't have a sense of trust, or they did at one time feel comfortable, then the trust was violated because someone did not keep their space safe. So what do you do now as a pastor to try to nurture and foster environments that are safe for young men to talk and express how they feel?
That's really interesting because I was talking to somebody the other day. At one time when I moved to Paducah, I was able to go to the juvenile detention center. An ex-offender going there, try to deter some of these young men from following my footsteps. I was going, having a very good turnout and having a very good positive response. But then the laws changed, and now I can't go in. Nobody can go in that's a felon or ex-offender, and that to me is like part of the problem and it's part of the setup. That to where to keep somebody like me, who I've been out of prison for 30 something years, keep me from going in there to help people. So it's, even though when you places like that, it's shut down. So what we do, we've started what we call a safe place at Christ Temple, a place where we wanted young men to just come and feel safe. Then plus we have a brothers meeting, like from 18 to up. Some of the people come in, and what you just said is what I try to bring to people, and even my young brotherhood's president. We try to come in and have young people come in, and we expose ourselves. Some of them been molested. Some of them, like I said, been to prison. A lot of them in there have been to prison. Nobody knew. Okay, so when we expose ourselves, exposure of being transparent is a big issue.
Very powerful when
it really is, especially among Black people.
Black
men, we don't trust anybody. And and we have carried this image for so long. I can't lose that. I got to stay in control of that image, because if I expose myself, like you said, what are they going to think? What are they going to think about me? They're going to realize that I'm not who I pretended to be for so long. And so when we come, it's quite a few of our brothers at Christ Temple that have been to prison. And the reason that they are open with that, because I was open with mine. And so they come in, they're open. They, like I said, we talk about molestation. A lot of men don't want to talk about things like that because it messes up their manhood. So it's like, okay, but when we're transparent like that, others, even though some of them cry now for the first time about stuff that happened years ago, because they're being able to be free from the stigma. So we got a lot of issues, and this is what I say a lot. You cannot be Black in America and not have issues.
Wow.
Yeah, you got issues that go all the way from slavery. Got issues. We got issues trusting each other. We got issues. Our wives, our women have been by the time we get to it, they get to us, they've already been damaged.
See, now we are really getting into the weeds of this, because in that piece, Pastor Walton, you've said so much. And before we go deeper into that, I do want to welcome those that are just tuning in. This is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Here I have Pastor Anthony Walton, and he's sharing his journey with us from being in prison for robbery to when he commit suicide to now here he is 30 something years later as a pastor. And right now he is sharing some of the things that within his ministry, what they do to create a safe space for Black men to talk. So Pastor Walton, you touched on a thing when you spoke about transparency, when Black men, just creating a space for men to sit down and talk about things like molestation, rape, sexual assault, abuse, like what you experienced and things like that. And the point that you brought out, the image. I think there's such an image of what a Black man should within our community as Black people, but there's also a label or a stereotype from the world outside of us, and how that can weaponize a man to shut him down, to not want to talk and open up and share and be vulnerable, because one, he's experienced abuse from within, but then he's also experiencing abuse and labels on the outside, mainly by, the police and things as such. So now it's like, well, where can I go? Who can I talk to? Who can I run to? Because it's just like Jana said, it's a catch-22. Doggone if you do and doggone if you don't. So what does a man do, a Black man, what does he do when he's in a space like that, when he's experienced all these things and going through these things? What should he do? What advice do you have?
Okay, one of the main things is be willing to talk. That's the, even though it's difficult, and you touched on something. I have to go kind of back. The criminal justice system makes a Black man feel less than a human. When he has this kind of mindset, he's upset at a system that he can't do anything about. Everybody knows it's racial. Everybody knows that it's unfair or unjust for Black men. So when a Black man experiences that, he's mad at the system, at the police, at everybody, because now here he is trying to get out of prison and do something with his life. And like you said, he don't trust anybody. So what we're trying to do, the thing that helped our brothers in our community basically is, and I'm not putting any kind of whatever on me. I'm just saying, because I became transparent.
Right.
Allow people to know that even though I'm a pastor, I've been to hell and back.
And so that's what I appreciate is your transparency, because I really feel like, Elder Walton, a lot of pastors are up here faking, or they've got what I call spiritual amnesia. And it's like, you weren't always running for Jesus.
Thank you.
Had life BC before Christ. And I think that's where the real ministry is. It's not in the pulpit, but the life you lived before that. And to be more transparent about that, whether it's you open up and sharing, what your situation on robbery and being abused or being molested. And I think that is what men need, is someone that's going to be real and honest and just tell the truth. Not that we are throwing the gospel away or throwing the Bible out the window, but let's take off the mask and be honest and transparent.
Exactly.
It happens in the pews. I was a PK, a pastor's kid, sitting in the church. I was molested at the age of 7 and 10. And when it happened at 10 years old, it was from a babysitter from church.
Yes. And that what you just said is issues that I've had forever, because it took me a long prison is where I got saved, because I had issues with the church. I had issues with what they stood for. And people, like you said, are getting molested right in church. And so that is
lack of transparency is why a lot of people from this generation, they want God, but they're done with the ministry, because there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. There's a lot of lying going on. There's a lot of half-truths going on.
Cover up.
There's a lot of cover-ups, a lot of mask wearing going on. So even now, a lot of people have opted to, I'll just watch church online because I don't have to deal with the foolishness of the pews. So the fact that even for you to come here, I think is very powerful, because we do need to rip the Band-Aid off and have a real conversation.
Yes, that's the key right there, a real conversation, not superficial stuff, not top surface. Because when you're top surface, you're leaving out a lot of the bottom stuff. And you just become, it's just like a sore, a cut. It can heal on the outside, but the inside is still sore. And if you rip the Band-Aid off of it, you'll get an opportunity to get healed from the inside out. So that's the way things are with us, especially Black men. We are probably the worst when it comes to holding stuff in. The worst, because again, it goes all the way back to slavery, how they did us or whatever. And sometimes people don't want to talk about that, because The white man got issues with us mentioning stuff about slavery. Because for
Well,
one
not
thing,
even just slavery, but now in 2021, when we're seeing us getting killed by the police and they're being placed on, administrative leave with pay. But just to stick back to the core of what we're talking about here, I think it's important. And this is the question I want to ask you, Pastor Walton, is the impact of incarceration on Black men as far as their mental health.
Again, when you deal with the injustice, that's one thing. You got to deal with the injustice of the court system, the judge, even your own attorney, even the prosecuting attorneys. When you deal, that alone is an issue. Not saying that you didn't commit a crime, but you're going to receive more time than somebody else that did the same crime.
Well, what is the issue? Like, can you kind of unpack that a little bit more?
What do you mean?
As far as you're saying with the attorneys, the judges, like just the stress of that for those of us that don't really understand what that really entails and how that is stressful.
Okay, the reason it's stressful, you go to court, you get an unfair treatment, even when you go to the courtroom, because you're Black. And regardless of what anybody, this is documented. This is not something that Pastor Walton is making up. This is documented that is more Black men in prison than anybody else, and basically because of their race. Again, so when I got arrested, I was upset at the whole system because I felt like I didn't get the right deal, even though I was guilty. If I had been another color, I would have gotten a different sentence.
So you feel like your sentence was disproportionate?
Of course, most of us Black. So when you go to prison, you're already mad. You're mad at the system. You're upset because you didn't get a fair shake. Mm-hmm. That's so when you go there, that's why you get violent in prison. Everybody is upset at the system. They're not upset with the other man, but the other man is just right there around them, so they take it out on this other person. So Black men are upset. They're upset in prison. They're upset because they can't talk to anybody. They're upset because they don't trust anybody. They're upset because nobody trusts them. Excuse me. So that anger right there is so impacted in them that it makes it very difficult for them to adjust, because I'm angry again. And here's another thing: the prison system. Sometimes people think that they're going to get a fair shake because the judge is Black or somebody. Sometimes Black people in the system treat you worse than anybody because they got to keep their jobs. So we see all of that. It's just a big system of who can get to become a judge sooner. So I got to lock all these people up, so you become a pawn. You become somebody that they're making money off of, and you know that. And so you can't just keep that bottled up on the inside. You are mad. You are upset. And even when you do your time and you get out, you feel like that it wasn't right. Yeah, I was guilty, but you didn't give me a fair shake. You didn't treat me like I was a human being. You absolutely treated me like a dog. And that is a hurtful thing for a man to be treated like a dog.
And this is what I want to ask you, because now we see this generation, it seems like they don't fear anything, and they go out and commit crimes, they do things, and then I don't think the reality for them hits until the door slams and they spend that first night in jail. So I think a lot of times some communities may glorify or celebrate going to jail, and then when they get out, it's a celebration. We're throwing parties. But can you kind of unpack twofold question? One, first part I want to ask you is the reality of just being processed into prison, what that is like, and then when that door slams.
Ooh, Lord have mercy.
That light goes off like that. Can you kind of take us there for a moment, please?
That is when you just said it again, and I got it all in my book too. That was probably one of the most horrifying things I'd ever experienced in my life. Is you going through there, you you can't get out. You're in a prison, and you can't get out, and the walls are small, and on top of that, you got somebody else in the cell with you, and it's just horrific. It's a feeling of no control. Now, the first time when I first went in, going through all of that process, going through all, they give you a number. I think I even wrote on Facebook that my number 102671. That's my prison number.
Wow,
I know that number.
Remember? Wow.
Yeah, this 30 something years, I don't even know my driver's license number, but I know that prison number because that's who you were. That's how you identify. So you don't become you become less than a man. You become a number. And they treat you like you're less than a man. So all of that is in your head. All of that's in your spirit, and so you start basically devaluing your own self. You know, and so here you are, nobody cares. Your family's out there. You can't do anything. And that first few nights for me was like a nightmare.
Wow.
It was like a nightmare. I even though, like I said, I'm guilty. I did what I did, but never in my life had I ever gone through something so horrific. To me, it was like walls were caving in. You know, in a small place that nobody cared, and you know you can't get out. You know you cannot get out. You are confined, and that confinement it messes with your mind. You know, who wants to be? You got to get told when to take a shower, told when to eat, told when you can have to use the telephone. You know, little things that we take for granted. You in prison, they in control, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's a terrifying experience. It was to me. That's the reason when I got to the point to where, okay, this is done. I can't do this. You know, I cannot do this. I didn't understand what 12 years meant. I looked at this is 12 years. I cannot do 12 years. Not in this kind of environment. Not with the way these things are. I can't do this. You know, and it's like my mind was made up. I can't do this.
So these thoughts or feelings that kind of led you down the road as suicide as an option, correct?
Yes. And that's to me, after being free for so long, not ever having to come in any kind of position like that, it was like a shock to my system. Mm-hmm. It was a shock because you're behind a door. You're in a prison that's in a prison. Okay, you can't get out. They shut the door. They don't really care. Mm-hmm. Nobody really cares. Like I said, the first few nights, I was in a cell by myself. That's when all the stuff started happening. I'm thinking, you know, I'm going to lose my family. What am I going to do about my family? I'm going to, you know, I can't do this. And so that's when it wasn't just a suicide thought. It was a suicide intent. That's different than a thought. You know, you think about it and say, no, but I was at the point to where there is no hope. Anytime anybody feels hopeless, I mean, I'm talking about hopeless. There's no way out. Nobody really cares. And I'm locked in this place and I can't do anything about it. I cannot do that. That was my mindset. I can't do that. And I never thought in a million years that I would ever get like that. Never thought it.
So you actually attempted suicide?
Here's what happened. When I looked around in my cell, evidently I was at the end of the building because there were pipes that was running through it. Okay, so it's like, okay, I can use that right there to just, you know, put a rope around my neck and just hang myself. Wow. That was my thought. And here I am. I take the sheet.
You were planning it.
Yes, ma'am. Wow. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do this. Mm-hmm. It's not, it passed. I don't want to do it. It's like, I'm not going to do it. You know, that's because I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of giving me all this time and me doing it. And I'm hurting. That's a real pain, is hopelessness. That's a real pain. You can't get cured from that. The only thing that can help you is hope. That's the only thing that can help you is hope. I didn't have any. Okay. When you take the sheet, I had a little sheet, and what I was doing, I was twisting it, turning it, you know, trying to make a rope out of it or whatever. And I'm looking at this pipe. I had it in my head, throw it cross over the pipe, and just tie it around your neck, tie it to the pipe, tie it around your neck, and just slump down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had it all figured out.
Wow.
And that's the thing right there that I know a lot of Black men get to that point.
Mm.
I can't do this. The whole world is against me. The whole world is against me. You know, I can't get any justice. I've been snatched away from my family. And let me stop right there for just a minute. That's the reason some of them young boys are going in the way they're going. Fathers have been snatched out of the home in prison. So they grow up without a father. So they don't have anybody basically to guide them, you know, because the father is in prison. So and you can't help but to have a feeling. And I know a lot of times guys not going to talk about that. They call home and they act like everything is okay. They come to the visiting gallery, act like everything is okay, but it's not okay.
But it goes back to that image that you mentioned earlier, the ego, the label of being the Black man holding it down.
Yeah,
but on the inside breaking.
I mean, that's the thing right there. That's the reason transparency is so important. That's the reason talking is so important. Because when you start getting things out, you start knowing that it's okay to be transparent. Once you allow men to get like that, it's almost like they can't help but to be emotional because they've held it in for so long. Now I'm at a place now where we all got problems. All of us men got issues. So we can talk about these things. We can release ourselves where we at one time, like I said, we got to hold it down. We got to be macho. And you know, the saying, men don't cry, you know, boys don't cry. That's what they say. Big men don't cry or whatever. And so young men learn that at an early age. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to cry, you know, be tough.
Wow. So going through that, planning your suicide while you're in jail, here you are inside for having being convicted of armed robbery. They tell you 12 years, you're depressed, you want to take your life. What was the breaking point for you? That's
interesting because it's in the book. It was like I was raised up in church.
Okay.
A lot of things I didn't know I knew. You know, a lot of people sometimes, you know, you go to Sunday school, blah, 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 all these kind of things, and you learn some things. Like my word would not come back void. Okay, you learn some things. I didn't know I knew this. Mm. I'm getting ready to do this. I would have to say God spoke to my spirit.
Wow.
You shall not die, but you shall live. That rang out in my spirit so profound. I didn't know I knew that, but that was in my spirit. You shall not die, but you shall live. That was the thing right there that broke that suicide spirit off of me. Because it was a spirit, and the spirit was telling me to die. The only way you're going to get rid of this pain is to die, because you're not going to be able to make it with this pain. You got to kill yourself to end the pain. This is why suicide basically is what people are thinking. I can't do this, so the only way I'm going to get out of this is die. So that came in. This is a fresh 12 years, and that's when that spirit came to me like that. You shall not die, but you shall live. You know, that broke it right there.
Wow.
That broke it. And like I said, I didn't know that I knew that. I didn't know that I knew that scripture. I had no idea. That's why it's important for people to bring their children to Sunday school.
Right. So going through that process, and then you were talking about creating the space for men in the church, as far as with your ministry, to talk about the things they've experienced. And then here we are now. So now you've written a book about your journey, and I don't want to spoil all of it because they need to go get the book to get the story.
You get the book,
which we're gonna discuss later. But to get to the point of writing the book. So fast forward through all of that. What made you prompt you to Pastor Walton to write a book about being from prison to the pastor to who you are today?
I needed some closure. I needed some victory. I didn't know. The first, because I wrote two books. I wrote one from just from prison, basically when I started with the prison thing. Then the other one I wrote from childhood all the way through. Okay, the first one didn't have the childhood in it.
So it had pretty much like in parts.
Yeah, Yeah, well, actually, it started from when I actually got found guilty and through the prison thing. So the whole thing, that's what the first book did. And when you said what prompted me, I wanted to do it. I didn't know it was going to do some things in me, but I wanted to do it. I was hoping that it would help somebody else. I wanted to do it. And let me tell you something. It took me 2 years to write that first book.
Wow.
You know, because write a little bit, cry a little bit, write a little bit, cry a little bit, because what I wanted.
Therapeutic for you to do that?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
writing? Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely therapeutic. It helped me more than I thought that it would, because I was able then to take control of that myself and write it, even though, because I wanted to write it to where every detail I felt it. Does that make sense? I didn't just want to superficial. I wanted to actually feel what I was feeling at that time. I wanted to write
it. Emotionally went back to that place.
Yes. Okay. All the way back to the beginning.
Wow.
That was my first book. It started with the prison thing. The other one, like I said, started from home, from family life. That was traumatic. You know, but it's like I said, it was therapeutic. But I had to write it so that I could feel it, and so that when somebody else read it, they would feel what I felt. You know, so yeah, I had to write that. It was like a push. And I'd never written a book before in my life, you know, but I knew I had to do that. And that helped me to help set me up for the second one. You know, so like I said, the first one is called Under the Shadow. The second one is Under the Shadow 2, basically, because it's the full story.
Right.
You know, it's the full story. So it helped me, and I've put some in the prison system. A guy told me today, came by this church, said, "Man, I read your book in prison. I read your book in the county jail." You know, because I've put some in there basically to give hope, basically to let a guy know, okay, you can get through this. Hang in there, because it basically gave a lot of details about everything, about how I felt, about the hopelessness, about how I felt so unjustly treated or whatever. So it's in detail, a whole lot of details there.
Wow. So want to pivot here, because getting released and then coming back into society, that transition is not always easy. So how can the community, family, loved ones assist or help a loved one that's coming out back into society transition, and just the difficulty of just a job, housing, things like that? Can you kind of unpack that for us a little bit?
Yeah, because most people don't know how to deal with people coming out of prison. They think they're supposed to jump right back on the bandwagon and just pick up where you left off and whatever. And it's not that easy. If you're around somebody that don't know how to deal with you, it hurts more than it helps. Yeah, you can welcome me home and have a big party for me, but now what am I going to do from here? I've been locked away. Now I'm free. I'm smelling this freedom air now. I don't have any limitations. I'm free. If somebody don't get to them and tell them, okay, you're going to have to calm yourself down, get a job, and see, all of that is difficult when a man is used to working. I'm used to not working and selling drugs or whatever, making more money in a day than he can make in a week. You know, things like that go through a guy. So if you're not wanting to do better while you're in there, it's going to be very difficult to do better when you get out. And most people, they hide it, or they kind of ignore the fact that, okay, my brother just got out of prison, whatever. So, you know, he'll be all right. He'll be all right. You know, all I got to do is get a job and blah, blah, blah. People don't know how to deal with people coming out of prison. So for me, and I was talking to a guy just today about that, it's like, you got to have some kind of support. And the only support that you can really have is somebody that's been there. You know, somebody that's been there. If I don't know anything about prison, I can't help anybody in prison or out of prison. And so sometimes people are ignorant to, I don't mean it in a bad way, they don't know how to help.
Not knowledgeable. Yeah. And I guess the thing is too, is just physically adjusting, because you go from the 6x9 cell to back to a large space. And I've heard stories about people getting out and sleeping under a coffee table or because they're so accustomed to sleeping in a safe space. They cannot
Yeah.
sleep in a large bedroom, just because they're mentally having to readjust, and they're doing things that are weird, in the refrigerator, maybe putting their name on everything, little things,
Yeah.
because, and we laugh about it, but it's
but it's so real. It's a reality. It's a reality because you get so used to that, and you're afraid to venture out. You still keep yourself in a certain boundary.
Waking up at a certain time, going to bed, your body, you're mentally, physically having to readjust. And even people I've known that went in maybe early 2000s and then get out now, and we look at culturally with our society, with the technology, how much has changed.
Wow.
If you go to jail in 2007 and then you get out in 2021, well, look how much has happened from 2000 to now. When you just get into now we have computers, cars, or there are no more payphones. Everybody has a cell. Just little things,
right? Little things that we take for granted,
right?
And a guy comes out, don't know how to use a cell phone.
Doesn't know anything about what's Facebook, what's Instagram, what is an app, just even the words that we use. So I think it's important, like you said, to have those that have been in to assist in transition, because family members and loved ones can be there to support. But if we had not been in those shoes, we don't know how you may feel your frustration or your anger. And I think that's very important. So do you feel like it's very important that those transitioning, they have some type of counselor or therapist as they're going through these transitions, to have someone where they feel safe to talk to?
Yes, ma'am. That's why, I have a what I call an ex-offender support group.
Okay.
I have that. I've been having it for a while. The pandemic kind of slowed us down a little bit, but we have that. And we have people that are coming out of prison. They come and they talk. And I think the first one that we opened up after the pandemic was a few months ago. A whole family came.
Wow.
Just to try to find out how to deal with their family member. What do? We don't want them to go back to prison. So what do we do? So the little things like that, love them, but be strict and be stern with them about their life. Let them know that there's hope. Keep them coming to church or whatever, but you can't control them. All you can do, basically what you can do is tell them what's right and try to help them as much as you possibly can, but you can't really control them, and you can't baby them or whatever, because that's what they've been used to. I have to tell mamas that when their sons are locked up, especially they've gone in 2 or 3 times, stop sending them commissary. You know what commissary is, right? Commissary is stop sending them money to buy food.
Put money on the books.
Yeah, put money on their books. Yeah, that's right. You're good with that. Yeah, stop putting money on their books. Stop allowing them to call. Let them feel the full impact of prison. Because once they feel that, right now, when you got them with all kinds of food, all kinds of things, they call you whenever they want to. They don't really feel the impact of prison. That's why a lot of times parents do come to me, wives come to me, or whoever. How do I deal with my son? Stop. Don't send him nothing else. Don't let him call you.
This is tough love I've never heard on another level before.
Yeah.
You would think, you would want to do those things. So you're saying doing that kind of enables them and makes them more comfortable, and they're not feeling the brunt of.
Yes, ma'am. Especially if they've gone back again the second time.
Okay.
Now, the first time, you're okay. But if they've gone back a second or third time, what's making them comfortable is you. And I've told mamas that you need to back up off of him, let him feel the full impact of prison. Because he can't feel it right now. You got him a television, you got him potato chips, you got him cold drinks. He can come in and he don't have to do anything. They give him 3 meals a day anyway, but here you come making him comfortable. Why wouldn't I want to come back? I'm comfortable being here. I'm like I said, all my bills are paid. I got all kinds of snacks. I'm sitting back watching the television, and then I can call mama anytime I want to. If my money is getting low, mom, put some more money on my books. So here you going, continuing to enable. And I've told them, if you really want him to get some help, bite your tongue. You just lock yourself down. Be strong. Like you said, tough love. Most mamas can't do that. They have to, but daddies can. Daddies, I ain't sending them nothing else. But mamas, they always their little babies or whatever. But I have to basically try to encourage them every time I see him. Okay, how you doing? He'll be all right. You just stick to your ground. He'll be all right. And listen to what I'm going to get ready to say. The ones that take it, that do that, the kid don't go back.
Really?
They don't go back because they felt prison. Anytime you can feel that and you get the full blunt of it, you realize that this is not somewhere where you want to stay. So, but you got to, they got to do it though. And so, to me, what we try to do is help all the way around. We had a real nice group. Like I said, we had to close down because of the pandemic. We had a real nice group this past time because we do once a month, and they come in and they just talk. One guy came in and had done 26 years. Wow. He came in and he basically had the floor. He talked about a whole lot of things, and we was all like listening because some of us had done 10, some of them had done 5. I'm talking about straight calendar. Anytime you go,
don't talk about the sexual assault that occurs behind bars as well.
Whew. And some of them are victims, and some of them are the offenders. Wow. It's a whole nother world. Mm-hmm. It's a whole nother world. You can't even imagine the things that go on back there. People get cut, they get throats sliced, they get raped, they all kinds of things. It's like a jungle. Like only the strong survive. Like people are going to do whatever they can do to get away with that anger that's got them. They don't take anything. You got like a lot of drugs in prison. They make penitentiary wine, and so like visitors bring drugs in. So it's a world. It's a whole world within itself. And if you're not careful doing what you need to do, kind of take care of yourself or whatever, you can easily get caught up in that.
So at this point, because even with those being raped in jail to where we are now, because that's a whole separate conversation, and I do want to keep it family friendly. But my one question is, why is it that is such a propensity for men to sexually assault each other behind bars?
Because people the power is the control thing. They still want some type of female type relationship. They gotta have. It's like, since there's no woman here, you be mine, and if you don't, then I'm gonna beat you like a dog. Because I know it's like little things like, okay, family friendly, little things like how you use the bathroom. I don't want you being like a man. I want you being like a woman. So if you do it like a man, then you're gonna get beat until you submit. So it's like a power thing, and it's like somebody's already timid in a sense. It's gonna be easy for them to be, and they don't be somebody's, put in fill in the other words.
So do the young boys not realize, because again, the culture is glorified, but not realizing things that happen, because statistically, and this is, you guys can fact check me on this, but statistically, sexual assault in prison occurs within the first 72 hours of incarceration after intake. So you have to think about that. Within the first to third night, within 72 hours, it is pretty much guaranteed that you will be sexually assaulted, and or if you don't, you will become the predator because you don't want to be sexually assaulted.
Well, I can say possibly, but let me use me for instance.
Within 2021.
Okay, within 2021.
Have gone through the roof.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I can see that. I really can, because people are so, again, the anger that was back there has intensified. So this day and time, I can see that. I can see that, and that's when you get that done to you, it does some physical things, and it does
psychologically. It's damaging on top of everything else you've experienced. So now you have higher rates of depression, suicide, and anxiety with behind bars. And then
Yeah.
after, because then you have to come out of jail carrying the secret that you were assaulted or that you were doing the assaulting. And people don't know the life you live within because you're living a double life, because your family just knows that you were in jail, but they don't know the real life behind bars. And I think that's another conversation to even have maybe at a later time. But just to get back to your story, Pastor Walton, what was your turnaround for you after going to jail, getting sentenced for 12 years for armed robbery, wanting to commit suicide, planning to commit suicide, and then transitioning out? So once you get out of prison, where were you at that point?
Okay, you have to realize I got saved in prison. Okay. Baptized in Jesus' name, got the Holy Ghost, speaking in tongues in prison. Okay, so I was on a road of bettering myself before I got out. Okay, a scripture I found in the Bible, I memorized: create in me a clean heart, oh God, renew the right spirit within me. I wanted God to change me because I didn't want to come back. So I was already on that road. I had to take a lot of stuff. I had to cry a lot because I felt like I could defend myself, but I didn't, because I knew if I defended myself, I was going to have to kill somebody and then I'd be in prison for the rest of my life. So I had to learn to be saved in there, for real saved. And then so when I got out, my wife had already gotten saved at Greater Christ Temple. Okay, so we knew how to be heathens together. We knew how to do that, smoke weed and drink. We knew how to do, but we didn't know how to be saved together. So that was a challenge. That was a challenge. But the thing about it is that I got out. I turned 30 years old when I got out. I started sacking groceries at a grocery store. That was a mental issue because you don't know how to make normal money.
You're used to having pocket full of money.
Yeah, you're used to having that. You're used to not having to rely on a paycheck. That's a mental thing within itself. You got to have a lot of discipline to keep a job.
And that's a humility thing too. You have to humble yourself because you're accustomed to getting that fast, quick money. And now you go from that to slowing all the way down to every week.
Minimum wage or something.
Minimum wage. Wow. Okay.
But see, listen to this too. You make about 15 cents, maybe 20 cents in prison. Okay? A day. So you can't get out and work a minimum wage job. There's something going on. You understand what I'm saying? So it's that freedom thing. It puts you in a whole different mindset. It almost make you feel like you got to catch up with all the time that you was there. And sometimes people offer you stuff. Now this is the thing. Your friends, who they're supposed to be your friends, they come and want to set you up. Okay, man, you get this right here. It'll help you get on your feet. And you got to have some discipline to not do that, because you're the one that's going to go to prison, not them. You're the one that was in prison, and they call themselves being your friend, but they actually is causing you to go right back into that cycle. So for me, it was a determination not to go back. Right. And you got to have that, because it's easy to go back when you get out if you're not careful.
Wow. Pastor Walton, you've said so much, and I definitely want to bring you back because you touched on something I think will be an awesome conversation for married couples that transition, maybe relationship before Christ and then transitioning in a relationship or marriage after Christ. I think that would be a very good conversation to have, to see in a relationship both sides how that would work and how to make that work. So if you would like to come back and have that discussion, I would love to have you back. I think that would be great.
I think my wife and I wrote a marriage book.
Okay.
It's called Married or Roommates. And so we have a marriage enrichment at our church, for married couples. So we do a lot of marriage things for married couples.
Good.
And a lot of churches don't do that, but we do that. So if you want me back, I would want her to come and be a part of that.
Yes, we can have First Lady Walton to join. It'll be a great conversation.
Yeah, because she was my lifeline.
Okay.
She was my lifeline. She helped me to cope and to make it through there.
Yes, I would love to have you guys back. coming into 2022, I'll be kicking off season 10 of the Speaker Podcast. And I think that would be a great, especially if we do it in February, it would be a good time to have
Valentine's Day. Yeah, we could do that.
So yes, I don't want to interrupt your plans, but we do want to bring you guys on around that time and get that. I think that will just be amazing thing here. So with that being said, you have a few books out here. So let the people know where they can find you on social media and where they can get those books.
Okay, those books you can find them in Amazon. Now here's one I just finished this class. This one called the Lifesaver book. I teach a class on Tuesdays dealing with anyone with any life controlling issues. I've been doing that for years. Okay, and all the books, the Lifesaver book, Marital Roommates, Under the Shadow, all of those at Amazon. You can pick them up at Amazon. They'll ship them to you and everything. And they don't cost. This one is like $9. I think the marriage book is like $12, and my prison book is about $15.
Okay. Awesome. Well, first of all, and then where can you be located on social media, on Facebook?
Okay, my name, I got just Anthony Walton. Is a picture of me and my wife on there, and Christ Temple, the church. That's a picture of me and my wife also on there. So yeah, Christ Temple, Paducah, Anthony Walton. You go in there and you can get all kind of good stuff.
I love it. Well, it's been an honor to have you here. I'm going to chat with you a little bit after we wrap up here. But first of all, I want to say thank you so much for just being so transparent and so honest with your journey. I think it's very empowering, especially for young men, young and old Black men, just to hear your journey. Because one of the things I want to do here is to create a space that's safe for our brothers to come on and talk and share. Mm-hmm. And what they say is not taken wrong or judged or weaponized, because I think a lot of Black men don't have a space to open up and share and talk. And of course, we have, the sisters come on here too, but my door is also open to our brothers, because I think it's very important. And the more we have these stories and these journeys that they can heal and connect and relate to. So for those that may be watching, if you have experienced incarceration, or someone or loved one that has, please refer them to this episode of the Speaker Podcast. It will be available on my YouTube channel, Camille Essick, where they can catch it there. Share it on your Facebook page, and then drop some hearts below and let how much we appreciate everyone here. We appreciate Pastor Walton for being transparent and honest and sharing his journey with us. So I would like to say thank you just for doing that.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored for you having me. It's been awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Narkita said, a great job.
Hey, Narkita.
Hey, sis. So thank you for tuning in, Narkita and Jana and Courtney, some other people that hopped in. So you guys, if you missed this, you can also catch the replay on my YouTube channel. So with that being said, this is Camille Essick. I am the host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. I do hope that you got something from this. And until next time, be blessed. Bye-bye.